Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us here today. My name is Fabiana Bacchini. I'm the Executive Director of the Canadian Premature Babies Foundation. And since the beginning of this pandemic, we brought a lot of education online for families as well as support groups. So you can join us every Monday and Friday. I bring different experts, parents to talk about the latest developments on the COVID-19, plus what is happening in the NICUs across Canada, but also we chat with parents, the experience, what they are experiencing at home during this time. And every Wednesday, Kate Robson is hosting a real-time peer group for parents. And to get the link, you can join the Canadian Premier Parent Network, which is our Facebook group. And today we're going to be talking about what kind of activity you can do at home with your child or your baby. I'm very honored to introduce you to Ashleigh Judge. She has a diploma in early childhood education and early childhood resource consultant teacher certificate. She has also a Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology from York University. She currently works in an Early Ontario Child and Family Center and is very passionate about making early learning settings inclusive for children and adults with various types of disabilities and unique learning styles. Ashleigh was born at 32 weeks gestational and spent 2 months in the NICU at Women's College Hospital in Toronto. She was also diagnosed with cerebral palsy. That's why she became very passionate about inclusion. Ashleigh, welcome. And thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us here today.
Thank you for having me, Fabiana, and everybody.
Thank you. Ashleigh, I always love when you share your story because you always give us hope what the future holds for our children, because it's very hard for us parents, whether when we are in the ICU or a few years at home, how do you see our kids in the future, what they will be doing? Yeah. So, and I think your story is very inspirational for us parents because we were on the other side. We were the baby born so early. So tell us a little bit about you.
So like you said, I was born 32 weeks, so about 2 months early at Women's College Hospital. My mom actually lost her amniotic fluid months before she had me. She had cervical incontinence, so she had to be on bed rest for a month before she had me and have a stitch put in her cervix. And then I was born at 32 weeks, and when I was born, I had one lung collapse and one lung filled with water, so I had to be on a ventilator right away. And as I said, I was in the NICU for 2 months. At that time, I was diagnosed at a few years old with cerebral palsy, and just like a lot of your parents, the doctor said, we don't know what her future is going to be. She could be completely dependent on others for everything, or she could just maybe walk with a bit of a slight limp. My parents didn't really know what to predict until I was 6 years old. So they took me home and just did all the things you would do with any baby. And I went to preschool at what is now Bloorview Preschools. At the time it was Easter Seals. I did kindergarten at Holland Bloorview School. I transitioned to regular school in 3rd grade. I mainstreamed, as they say. I've had 3 surgeries because of my CP. I've had an eye surgery, a back surgery, a hip surgery. At this point, I use a power wheelchair as my primary source of mobility. I have good use of my hands and arms. Like you said, I've been to university. I've been to college. I live by myself. I've lived by myself for several years now. And I currently work at College Montreal's Children's Place EarlyON. As somebody with a disability, I've seen how early childhood settings are not inclusive. They might be inclusive to little people, small people with children with disabilities, but not so much for the adults. So that's posed a big challenge in myself finding different job opportunities. So when I started with College Montreal's Children's Place, I actually started as a volunteer, and we're a very small organization. So as time went by, we got to know each other, the management team and I'm now working there as the early childhood and family resource consultant. So mainly what I do is I provide support to staff on how to make their center more inclusive to children with disabilities and parents that might have disabilities. So people that have had disabilities have grown up, become parents themselves, that want to bring their children to EarlyON. So I'm there to let people know what resources are in the community, how they may be able to adapt the environment or make certain changes to activities to help a child's growth and development, but all making it fun and inclusive.
Thank you, Ashley. It's such a great story and all your accomplishments. You should be very proud of yourself and now becoming this big voice to advocate for inclusion. So can you tell us a little bit about what the college does and which population and families the college serves?
So our name is actually a little bit confusing. We're not actually a college. We're a college Montrose Children's Place, and we've been around for over 30 years. We started off the Family Resource Program, and then when Ontario EarlyON came out, we became the lead for Ontario EarlyON in Trinity, China. And then now we're all EarlyON. So all of the what was formerly Ontario EarlyON centers, parenting and family literacy centers with the school boards, childcare resource centers, and Better Beginnings, Better Futures centers, they've all moved under one brand, which is EarlyON Child and Family Centers. And that we're called College Montrose Children's Place because of the streets where our organization initially was housed and the area we serve. So as I said, we're an EarlyON Child and Family Center, and what that means is there's places like us all over the province of Ontario. It's a place where anyone who is parenting or caring for a child 0 to 6 can go. So we have parents, we have grandparents, we have nannies, bring children 0 to 6, and it's a place where adults can connect and get resources for other things, get ideas for other resources in the community. If their child has a speech delay and they're looking for support, we can connect them with the nearest speech and language organization. If families need to know, what do I do with my child at home, or what do I do when my child's throwing a tantrum, we can assist them with that. It's a place for adults to connect and feel less isolated, and it's also a place for children to connect and do different activities through learning. So it's very much set up the way a daycare would be. We have art activities, sensory activities, literacy and language activities, circles, and song times to promote the different aspects of development. But the difference is every child comes with an adult attached. Mm-hmm. So it's not like a daycare where the parent drops the child off and goes to work. The parent stays with the child, and the hope is that the parent will get some rest, but also be able to interact with their child, and will clean up the mess and those kinds of things.
That is wonderful, Ashleigh. But now with the pandemic, a lot of, obviously, the groups had to be canceled. And I know a lot of the work that you do is now online. So how was that transition to online, and how are families accessing it?
Correct. Because of the pandemic, we're not able to meet in large groups anymore. But many other EarlyON Toronto and our EarlyON College Montrose Children's Place, we're doing different activities online. So we have a Facebook page, and I believe Fabiana will post it there. You can log in almost every day from Monday to Saturdays. You can log and see a circle for infants or toddlers. Our staff are singing, they're reading stories. So that's for anybody, whether your child has a disability or a struggle with or a extra support need or a unique learning need or not. That's for anybody with a child 0 to 6. And then also there's some cooking videos on. We have a staff who has a background in nutrition. She's come on and done some cooking with kids videos. We have times where parents can meet together and chat online. Some of our previous circles that we've done live on Zoom, much like we're doing here, we've recorded them so that even on the days where we're closed, because it's Sunday or it's long weekend, parents can still go on with their children and view those circles.
That is wonderful, because now anybody in Canada can actually access those videos and those activities. So you left your little hub in Toronto, and now you expanded to anywhere really where families are, which is so great.
Yeah, our space is actually, I should say, I forgot that our space is open to anyone, that you don't have to be from a certain catch area to use our space, right. But it's obviously easier now without having to commute So you're able to go on, and anybody's able to go on and see the video.
Absolutely. Actually, but you are such an expert in activities. That's why we brought you here today to really help the parents at home uh, with the babies or toddlers. And sometimes you run out of ideas, or follow-up clinics have been closed across Canada. Parents might be worried about the baby's development. And I know you have so many things to share with us, what families can do at home. So I'm going to start by asking you, families of babies from 6 months to 12 months, what are activities that you recommend they do at home to promote development?
So I've been proponent of doing activities, things we readily have around home. You have to make a big expensive trip to toy store, the dollar store. And also that sometimes people say to me, oh, I'm doing the same thing over and over again. It's okay, baby, it's time to practice those skills over and make those treadmill. Also,
Ashleigh,
for some of
sorry,
you, maybe
you're having a little issue with the sound. Can you maybe come a little closer to your microphone?
come a little bit closer.
Closer, yes, please.
Yeah. Whoops. Is this a little bit better?
Oh, it's much better. Thank you.
Much better. Okay. So I would say that I make a proponent of doing activities at home using the things you have around the house already. You don't have to make a big expensive trip to the dollar store or the toy store. I'll also say that I know sometimes people worry about, I've just been doing the same activities over and over again with my baby. That's okay, because babies need lots of time to do the same activity over again, explore it. They're strengthening those connections in the brain each time they repeat an activity. So it's totally fine if you're doing the same types of activities over and over again. You don't have to do a new activity every day. I also know that for some of your families, their baby may be chronologically 6 to 12 months old, but they may be developmentally at a different age. That's okay. Babies at different ages get different benefits out of doing the same activities. So I would say things you can do at home for a baby. If baby's at the stage of maybe starting to walk or cruise, you can let them hold your fingers or your thumbs and walk with you around the house, or even for a little walk around the balcony or walk outside if you can. When you're outside, you can point out different things like, oh, I see a bird, I see a tree, I see a plane. If you're inside, you can make different kinds of sensory items. So for instance, you might make sensory Ziploc bags. So if you get, I recommend 2 big freezer bags and double them. And you can put different things in the bag, like water and food coloring. You can put things like flour and water. And you can close those bags, seal them at the top with tape, and then let your baby squish the bags, feel them, explore what's in there. And really, you could use anything. The possibilities are endless. You could use shampoo, you could use water beads that you use for gardening, anything really, so long as your baby can't open the bag and potentially swallow the items. While your baby is exploring the bags, you could also use this as an opportunity for language. So you can use one word phrases to describe what your baby is doing. So if they're squeezing the bag, you could say squeeze or poke or squish, and you're giving them different words to describe what they're doing. So that's activity, is the sensory bags. The other thing you could try is a sensory bottle. So you just take an old water bottle that's clear. You can put different things in it, like cotton balls in one bottle, maybe marker lids in another bottle, things that make different sounds or don't make any sound. And then screw the lid back on the bottles. Again, tape them shut so they're sealed, so your baby can't take anything out and swallow it. And allow your baby to practice shaking or rolling the bottles. And then you can say, I hear that, or I hear shaking, or I hear whatever noise you hear. I hear rattling. So you can do that's a good cause and effect for your baby when they're shaking the bottle, when they're hearing different noises. Another thing for your baby is If you don't really want to deal with paints, you can get food coloring, and you could freeze some food coloring and some water in an ice cube tray, and that way you have colored ice, and your baby can use that to paint paper or whatever you have. There's different things of that nature.
That is wonderful, Ashleigh. And for moms who don't like a lot of mess in the house, you had to you had to give me great tips last week as well, that we don't really want to get everything all over to clean up. So you gave me this idea of the freeze ice cubes, was really cute and interesting for families.
Yeah, and that's why we put things in Ziploc bags and make sure they're sealed as well, because that way your child can explore the different textures of the different materials, but they're not getting it everywhere. I have to say there is some good in making a mess, allowing your child to be messy so long as it's safe. But I understand that people are already under a lot of stress, and you necessarily want paint tracked all around your house. If it helps, you can even just fill a tray, their high chair tray, or a little pot with some water and allow them to splash around in the water. That's another option, and you can put like a big towel or a big blanket on the floor by them so that it's easy to mop up any water that spills.
That is wonderful. And I hope like when the weather gets better, you can actually do some of those activities outside as well.
Yeah, I love outside. Outside's a great opportunity to take your baby for a stroll. You get out, you get some fresh air. Hopefully you get to see other adults. And again, talk to your baby about, I see a flower, I see a bird, I see clouds. And you point and label what you're pointing out. Bird, cloud, plane, tree. And that's a good exercise for your baby too. Don't forget, in everything you're doing, to do some singing and some reading. We have some excellent resources there on why singing and reading is so important for babies. It helps them bond with you, and it helps them pick up language.
That is wonderful. Actually, how about older kids, like the toddlers, 18 to 2.5 years old? What are your recommendations?
18 months to 2.5 years. So actually, a lot of things done with babies you can still do with toddlers. So then I would recommend ice cube painting or freeze water coloring ice cube tray. I can paint a new taco. I like the blue there, or oh, you did a circle, or you did a line, and you can talk to them about what they're doing. The other thing is that you can get a big bowl and put some little toys in there with water and freeze the big bowl, and then it's a big chunk of ice with water, a big chunk of ice with toys stuck in it, and you can get the children cups of warm water, spray bottles with warm water, and they can problem solve how to get the animals out of the ice. So that could last for a little while. With toddlers, again, lots of reading, lots of singing. Those things help promote language. Doing dance parties, so putting on music and getting them to dance around. If your toddler can't yet stand or walk, just getting them to do any movement they can, moving their head, stretching their arms, clapping, any movement they like to do, because that's good for exercising the gross motor muscles, the large muscles in the arms and legs, and the fine motor muscles too in the hands. That's the other thing, is the painting and the sensory bags. You can do sensory bags for toddlers as well, and sensory shakers, and those types of activities with the sensory bags and the sensory shakers and the painting with ice cubes, they're very good for the fine motor practice.
Wonderful. How about playing with food, Ashleigh? What is your recommendation? Because I remember my older son who loved to play with food on his tray. And when I was cooking, he wanted to help me to get the potatoes and the tomatoes. Is there any recommendation? Is it a fun thing to do with them? Would help with also with the language, I believe, development.
I have to say that college modules children where I work, we don't actually use activities with food because we want to teach children to eat their food, not to play with it. Having said that, I do recognize that for all babies and toddlers, playing with their food, kind of exploring the different textures is part of getting them used to eating. So if they're playing with their food a bit at the dinner table or the lunch table or the snack table, that's okay. They're getting used to that texture. They're exploring it. They have to put it on their hand first before they bring it to their mouth. And they have to bring it to their mouth first before they put it in their mouth. They have to get used to those textures. But if they're throwing the food around, then maybe it's time to say, okay, you're showing you're done eating. But cooking is a fabulous activity to do with toddlers. You can have them help you stir, as long as obviously the food's not too hot. You can have them help you pour, even with babies. When you can make Play-Doh at home with flour and salt and water and food coloring. And with toddlers, even babies, you can have them scoop with you. Scoop, pour, scoop, pour. You can count the number of scoops you're doing. 1 scoop, 2 scoops, 3 scoops. I certainly recommend allowing your child to play with food for the sake of getting it out and helping them with cooking. It's a great activity for getting language in there and getting some counting and some early mathematics in there as well.
Oh, that is wonderful. Ashleigh, now your opinion on screen times, because I guess all of us parents are allowing our kids to play more on their iPads and watch more TV, because that's the reality of our lives right now.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that and recommendations?
So certainly I know that the recommendation is that children under 2 typically don't do any screen time, with the exception of face-to-face chatting with maybe families like we're doing here. However, I think it's an exceptional circumstance. Parents are trying to work from home, so realistically, children are going to go on screens. Children over 2, between 2 and 5, they typically don't recommend that children spend any more than 1 hour a day on a screen. And I will certainly say that you sitting down to read a book with your child is much more helpful than having a story read to them through an iPad, so they can turn the pages with you, they can get the time with you. But again, I recognize that it's very difficult for parents, even in regular circumstances these days, let alone now, to not use screens for their children. So I would say that as long as you're realizing, as long as your child is doing something that you think is beneficial, like they're watching somebody they know sing, or they're watching somebody they know reading, it is beneficial. They're getting something out of it, especially if it's somebody they know that's reading and singing. But again, trying to keep that to a limit, trying to keep the screen time to a limit, and doing some of these at-home activities. You can make schedule and say, okay, from this to this time we'll get up, we'll have breakfast, and then we'll do some at-home activities, some academics. If your child's in kindergarten or in school, if your child's younger, you can say we'll do some at-home activities and get on the screen to watch circle time, and then we'll get off screens. Like again, that once answer isn't you can sing. I know it's a bit of a conflict. I thought of this myself as a professional. I certainly don't recommend putting kids on screen all day, but I recognize that this is a different circumstance. But as long as you're balancing, here's our set screen time, and here's our set time when we're going to do activities.
Thank
and
you,
it also helps, I also have to say, sorry, it also helps if you're at least watching the screen with your child, talking to them about what's happening. So for instance, if you're on a screen and you're to watch circle with your child, hopefully you're singing along with the circle conductor, you're doing some actions so that your child is also seeing you sing and do the actions, and hopefully they're mimicking you a bit, or they're learning to mimic you if they're not there yet.
Right. That's wonderful. Thank you. Actually, I also know that you create with your group these activity kits for different age groups, and you focus a lot on the toddler or baby activity kit, which is obviously not available to all the families across Canada because you're here in Toronto. But what could the families have in these activity kits at home, so this is ready to go? Okay, those are the essentials that we need to have to entertain our children, to help with the development during this very difficult time that we cannot engage in groups.
So I would say use very open-ended possibilities. What I mean by that is you give your child these materials, and there's multiple ways you can use them. So we've recommended things for toddlers and preschoolers, like colored feathers. If you are gonna go to the store, or you want to take a little trip to the dollar store or order something online, you can order things like colored feathers that you would use. Again, your child to be supervised so they won't swallow these or choke on them. Colored the little pom-poms, not the tiny ones, but the ones that are big enough that your child can swallow them. Paper bags, paper plates, and your child might want to make a mask, or they might just want to, at this age, probably children don't really want to make anything. It's more about the process than the end result. So I mean, with feathers and with pom-poms or cotton balls, there's so many things you could do with those. You could have your child practice taking them out of one cup with their hand or with their fingers. This is the palmer grasp. A younger child is going to do this and put things with their hand. An older child is going to use their picture and do this to pick up small objects with their fingers. So you can have your child practice taking cotton balls, feathers out of one cup and putting them into another one. That's again good fine motor practice. You can get some glue, or if you don't have glue, you can get some flour and water. It's sticky, and you can have them practice sticking the feathers or the pom-poms to the paper bag or the paper plate. It's very open-ended. So I would recommend that, some glue or some water and flour. The other thing is, if you don't mind a mess, you can always get child-safe or toddler-safe tempera paint, because babies love to do smearing. They love to smear paint. It's a sensory exercise. It's a good creative exercise. Toddlers love paint. You can get flour and water and salt and food color to make your own play. That's something I would recommend. A big favorite at my work is cornstarch and water. It makes a substance called goop or oblak, and that's a substance that when you move it, it turns into a solid, and when you stop moving it, it turns into a liquid. And it's a very fascinating sensory activity. So those are the kinds of things I would recommend, baby or toddler, open-ended. I also recommend getting things from nature. So again, things your baby can't swallow, but you can go out and get some flowers or get some sticks and put them in a bowl and let your baby explore them, explore the outdoors, things like that.
That is wonderful. So it doesn't need to be fancy, doesn't need to be expensive, really using
No,
the
not
materials
at
that we
all.
already have at home and available in nature, that we can just have fun with the kids and maybe be a little bit creative.
Yeah, as I said, it does not a big component of home activities and nature activities. It doesn't have to be expensive at all. You can pull out the pots and pans and spoons and get your baby to bang on the pots with their hands or the spoon and see what the different noises they can make are from banging on the pot with their hand versus banging on the pot with the spoon. The other good thing is turn taking. We know that really helps babies in their development. Say if you sit with a pot and a spoon or a pot in your hand and you bang on it and you wait about 5 to 10 seconds and see what your baby will do, see if they'll mimic you. If they don't, it's okay. You can keep playing and try it again. That you can put some flour and water in a little pot or bowl and have them stir it. It's a good fine motor activity. You don't have to, again, food coloring and water frozen. That's a great option for painting, especially if you don't like mess and permanent stains. Only use a little bit of food coloring though, because it can be quite concentrated. Yeah, you don't have to get anything really expensive, and you shouldn't really, because babies, everything is fascinating for them. They haven't been in the world very long, so the most important thing is you are your child's favorite toy. You are there talking to them, describing what they're doing, taking an interest in what they're doing, singing to them, reading to them, just talking to them. Even if there are a lot of parents that maybe they don't read English, they read in another language. Even if you get an English book, you can make up a story just by or pointing out different things in the pictures of the book. There's lots of different ways to do it. There's also a link on there for activity ideas from the Infant Mental Health Promotion website. There's a guide for different activities by age, and a lot of them are activities that require very little or no materials.
That's wonderful, Ashleigh. We are going to make all those links available on this feed. But I want to thank you so much for your time today, for sharing your story, your expertise with us, and the amazing work that you and your organization are doing here. Thank you so much, Ashleigh.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone for joining us here today. On Friday, I will be talking to Diane Schutz. She's a nurse in Winnipeg, and she is very passionate about kangaroo care. We're going to talk about kangaroo care. It's the World International Kangaroo Care Day, and it's so very important for our babies in the NICU, but also our babies at home. So that will be 1:00 p.m. Eastern time here on Facebook. And Wednesday, again, you can join Kate Robson with a real-time peer group. And to access the link, you join the Canadian Preemie Parent Network, which is our Facebook group. Thank you so much and have a lovely week, everyone.
Thank you.